Mark Ronson and Miley Cyrus, Nothing Breaks Like a Heart, here on BBC Radio Manchester. Good morning to you. As well as telling you of what great stuff you can do with your friends and family, I like to tell you about good books that you can get your head in and have a good read, especially with these cold nights coming in. You want to snuggle up with a good book. Now, Ayo Olatoye is from Manchester. He's a consultant in acute medicine, and in 2020, he had a stroke at a young age. On the road to recovery, he's been on a journey of improving his health, but also making some self-discoveries. In doing so, he's put a book out, which is called Building Blocks, and it's about the things that you need to know whilst you are building your life of dreams. The book is an aim to take people from feeling powerless and also giving them that direction in their lives, and also knowing that you can achieve whatever it is that you put your mind to. Currently, Ayo is on the transformation tour. He's promoting the book, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Ayo.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it is an absolute pleasure. You've mentioned, or should I say I've mentioned, about building blocks, the things that you need to think about whilst you're building your life of dreams. Before we get into the book, take us back to 2020 so that we can really understand what you went through.
Yeah, so funny thing, I was actually at work at the time. I was on a ward round, and I just felt non-specifically unwell. And I powered through the ward round. By the end of the ward round, I had a bit of a headache, and I was limping, but I'd had migraines in the past, and there are migraines you can get that give you stroke-like symptoms. So I thought, let me just get home. I drove home. Wouldn't advise it in future, but I drove home. I just got worse and worse through the day. By the end of the day, I had a really bad headache. Do you know when have you ever hit your funny bone?
Oh, yes.
And it feels like pins and needles, but also pressure. So I had that on the left side of my body, from my face to my feet. And I was limping, and we had a blood pressure machine at home, and I checked it, and I won't tell you how high it was, but it was scary high. And it was a mid of COVID, so we went to the hospital, and unfortunately my wife couldn't come in with me. It was a blur almost. I went in, got reviewed, had initial CT scan, which was negative, but that can happen with small strokes and early strokes. But I went to the stroke centre, had a more detailed scan, and they were like, yeah, I'm sorry, you've had a small stroke on the right side of my brain, which explained the symptoms on the left side. So that's the abridged version. But it was like I said, it was a blur in hindsight. It feels very strange.
Ayo, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 42. I was 39 when I had the stroke.
Now, is it common for someone your age to have a stroke?
Good question. So I think medically we are now realizing that more and more younger people are having strokes and dealing with things like high blood pressure and stuff, because on the day that I had a stroke, I was also diagnosed with high blood pressure. So it is becoming more prevalent, yes. And there are tests that people might do afterwards to try and figure out why. So I had like a scan of my heart and a scan of my the blood vessels in my neck, and they put me on a heart monitor to make sure my heart wasn't beating irregularly. We had all these things, and we didn't find a reason. I forgot to say the stroke was the best thing that ever happened to me, by the way, but we'll talk about that a bit more later, I imagine.
Let's talk about that now. Tell me why you've just told me that statement.
Well, so it's like, I think most people are viewing life through the lens of good and bad. And I heard somebody say something that really struck with me. We go through life forwards, but we only understand it backwards. So in hindsight, now where I am today, I am realizing that the opportunity the stroke gave me to pause, be reflective, look at life, decide certain things, take stock of my life, take responsibility, and take action towards the life that I wanted. I don't know that I would have done that if I hadn't had the stroke, because I was on the rat race. I was on the conveyor belt of life, going to work, taking care of the kids, being married, and making all those things work for me, but not necessarily feeling like I was moving forward, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And whilst you were on the road to recovery, that's when you started to write your book. Why was it that you decided to put pen to paper?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't start off wanting to write a book. I started off thinking, God, this thing came out of nowhere. So what I must do is put myself in a position where I can take care of my family financially without having to exchange my time for money in a conventional job. So I started to do some research, and a few of my friends had, pointed me in a certain direction. And there were a group of people who were doing the same thing. And we were actually learning how to trade Forex, actually, for anybody who's interested. And I found myself just writing some messages like on the WhatsApp group to say, keep going, guys, and encouraging things, because on the road to building your ideal life, it can be challenging, it can be trying, and sometimes it can be lonely, and having somebody in your ear to saying, you've got this, mate, keep going. And that's what I felt my role was in that group. And then it was, again, in hindsight, I look back and I thought, I've got over a year of these weekly messages. I wonder if I could put it into a book, because I got really positive feedback. So I was like, okay, fine, let's do that. So again, I didn't set out to write the book, but in hindsight, I realized I'd had enough to put it in a book. So I feel like I cheated a bit.
Can you tell us some of the points that you put out there that you said that you gathered over this year?
Yeah. So, the chapters in the book, we were dealing with things like fear of failure, fear of success. That chapter is called Altitude Sickness. We've got procrastination. We've got things like faith. We've got things about realizing that you're the asset. There's so many things that I realize. You know what I feel like? Have you watched The Matrix?
I have.
You know when Neo wakes up and he realizes that there's a completely different world that he's living in, but he didn't realize what it was? I feel like that. Yeah. Like I've been switched on to a frequency or something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this is what it is. And because I'm here, the book is to try and help people confront themselves and realize that actually you're capable of so much more than you could. One of the lines in the book is, it's time to dream big. Don't live a small life because you felt you have no other option.
I'm here. I'm writing down. I'm absorbing everything that you're saying. You need to be, Ayo, a motivational speaker, because what you've brought this morning, I'm just like, yes. And the thing is, as well, Ayo, what we do, I'm a sucker for it, is we don't appreciate what we have right in front of us. We're always thinking, this is where I want to be. And you don't enjoy the moment.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's two applications of that specifically in the context of what I'm talking about, living a big life. So the first thing is, you are absolutely right. Gratitude of where you are actually propels you forward. Being unthankful, and I'm not sure that's English. Being unthankful keeps you stuck in the moment. But if you also look at it from let's even talk about from a business point of view, there was a time when the people who were making, let's say, money and another stream of income were people who had bricks and mortar businesses. But there's such a thing now called the knowledge industry. There are people who are making money who are, let's say, selling a course, and the course is just an accumulation of things that they already know.
Right.
They're not even learning anything. And most of us are like, what do I have to offer?
Yeah.
Whereas there's probably somebody who's walking down the road that you're walking down who knows less than you, who might pay you, if you put it into a course, put it online. And so if there are people who are, doing well for themselves, and all they are doing is telling somebody else, well, you know what? When I was in your situation, I did this.
Yeah.
And I think realizing that you have something to offer and you have value is really great. And you mentioned about being a motivational speaker. My passion is to be more than inspirational. So I do believe the book will be a great place for people to start, and, specifics in terms of things you need to be thinking. But on the link that people can go to get the book, we're actually putting together a course for people who are seriously like, look, I need a mentor, I need someone to walk with me, to take them through an 8-week course where we're going to say, okay, let's have a proper conversation every week about practical things that you can do so that in 2 months' time you're in a different place than you were when you started. So it's good for people to realise that there's so much value with the Master Builders organisation and the book. So I'm looking forward to working with people.
Tell me now, where can I get your book and where can I do this course? Come on, give me the information.
All right, okay. So you can get the book at Buildingblocks.live. So Buildingblocks, one word, .live /preorder. So the book is going to be available at the end of November, so that's next week. It's going to be on physical books, it's going to be ebooks, it's going to be audio book at the beginning of December. And like I said, you can get the packages as well. We've got so much. Do you like brownies?
Are we talking food? Chocolate brownies?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're being sponsored by a company called Blue Strings Bakery. They make the best brownies in the UK.
Yes. Melanie
Best
Market.
brownies in the UK. Yes.
My
so
partner introduced me to them. Yes, they're brilliant.
Oh, right. Okay. Best brownies and blondies in the UK. So you can, if you check them on Instagram, but they are sponsoring us for one of the packages. And there's the family business blueprint that will give you some strategy. There's so much value. Coaching calls, face messages. There'll be a private support group. There's no way you won't have moved forward if you engage with the stuff. So I'm so excited for people to get on board.
Ayo, thank you so much for joining me today on BBC Radio Manchester. I could speak to you for the whole show.
Thank you.
You've been so inspirational and more than that this morning. And we all need a kick of that on a Saturday, don't we? So thank you for joining me today. You take care.
It's been a pleasure.
That is Ayo Olate, and he is from Manchester. He's got his book out. As he said, it's going to be available at the end of the week. It's called Building Blocks, the things that you need to know and think whilst you're building your life of dreams. How good was he?